Hello, and welcome to episode 34 of Whale the, or Dick Moby, because Herman Melville was nothing if not indecisive. This is my unreading of the great American novel of 1851, Herman Melville's Moby Dick, which is a terrible book, the only book that I have wanted to unread for years. I wish I'd never read it in the first place, and so I'm dumbing myself down, and dumbing you down, by reading this backwards. Word for word, chapter for chapter, from now until the heat death of the universe. But it's fun. Join me. If you want to give anything to this project, don't give anything to me. You can give things to the nvm.org. The link is down there, the address. It's not a link. You have to type it in yourself. You can pull your weight and give something to that. It's the National Video Game Museum. A good cause. Hopefully they are gearing up to reopen. Maybe they already have reopened. I don't know. Yeah, they were struggling early in lockdown, and I think they could do with some financial support. Excuse me. I certainly can't use your financial support. I've no interest in money at all. This is a community project. I do it for you. If you want to like and subscribe, that would be great. Don't feel under any obligation. Maybe why don't you watch a little bit of this and see what it is. See if you like it. You won't like it. And see if you can stick it out for the next hour. I'm going to see if I can stick it out for the next hour. Last week, this resulted in me feeling a bit ill. I was trying too hard, and the chapter we were reading was so tedious and so long that, yes, it got to me, and I actually had a dizzy spell after doing the episode last week. So this week I'm going to take it a little bit easier, especially given that this is the hottest day, not just in this year, but in the history of the world, in the hottest of all deserts. I am in the north of the UK, and I am already dead before I've even started. How appropriate that we begin on the theme of death grim. So we should crack on. We have some sperm to find. We found one sperm last week, up from the previous week's no sperm, but the board is clean. We're ready to go. We're going to keep an eye out for sperm as we go through. And I will draw them and then later transfer them onto the big board. We're making great progress in terms of sperm. In terms of actual progress through the book, less so. The progress bar, the what do you call it? What's the thing at the side? The scroll bar is only just over halfway through the book. Depressingly so, since we're well over halfway in terms of chapter count and well over halfway in terms of sperm count. But yeah, the internet tells the truth. That scroll bar ain't lying. We're only just over halfway through. So I better crack on. Let's get going. Death grim, like there on hold and Herr oarsman's nearest the of hold seas to, say squall sudden at in, two or moment critical uncommonly and for known been has captain the ware, two ones authenticated well, instances occurred have there nevertheless. Ballast for there them carries he, hands heavy, large very generally being perhaps but. Pockets trousers, his in hands his carries generally he, self-command buoyant. Entire his of token as, indeed, hands his with anything of hold catching, by particle slightest the himself steadying seen be to captain straddling this for, say I. Do never would it. Eyes riveted worlds the of sight plain in do never would it. Again, then. Up them stand cannot you and that's very poetic. Up them stand cannot you and poles two of angles spread and make merely. Breadth corresponding without nothing is foundation of length because him topple to far go often will boat the of pitch violent sudden abbot. Legs stretched his on down settling by sideways himself expand only can and behind and before wedged completely thus is he. I should say, if you weren't thinking, if you'd somehow misconstrued this, thinking that I wasn't actually going to read this backwards, I am actually reading this backwards and have been for months and months now. Let me just mark my place. If you want to follow along with a paper copy of this book, We are on chapter 53. We finished chapter 54 last episode. So we're now on chapter 53, obviously at the end of chapter 53 and progressing backwards through said chapter. I wouldn't recommend you following along on paper. You can follow along on the internet, which is what I'm doing. I'm reading it on the internet. I don't have this book on paper anymore after I presumably hurled the previous copy. I did read it on paper. Actually, I read it on a bus while commuting, but it was a paper copy that I read on the bus, which I think I then threw in the canal in frustration. Not the bus, the book. If you do want to read this for yourself, forwards or backwards, you can do so for free I'm about to read the web address. Are you going to write this down? You're going to type this in as fast as you can while I go? Gutenberg.org/files/2701/2701-h/2701-h.htm #link2h_epil, which I think was the original name of the book before Herman Melville decided on the name of the whale itself, which is called Whale the, or Dick Moby. Front in knees his rapping, by reciprocating after or the. Back his of small the in then and now, him hitting or steering projecting, immense the is rear his in for. Matter easy very, any this is nor. Legs his maintaining by dignity, his sustaining of importance that to alive all is captain standing this. Ships to the offside, sorry. Ships to, where was I up to? I just scrolled it when I wasn't paying attention. Occupational hazard. Let me see. Ships to the of sides, the from him on resting world visible whole, the of eyes, the of conscious being that notice will you often and. Tree pine alike standing all visit his to off pulled is, in sit to place no having, captain the and, occasion the upon steersman the is subordinate that. Number the of is harpooner or steerer boat the as hence and. Ship the leave must crew boats complete a gamming. Now then, we come to the real matter at hand tonight, which is we're about to... I looked ahead, I'm afraid. I did quickly glance ahead to see how long this chapter is, and I noticed that we're about to find out what gamming means. If you already know what gamming means, then I don't know what to tell you. This might be a little bit boring for you, but I'm excited to find out what gamming means. Gamming came up in the last episode. I was confused. So we're about to find out whether gamming is an activity we can all take part in, whether it's something you can do alone, or if it's best done in company. Let's go on a voyage of discovery in what appears to be the next paragraph, in fact. Let's get there. Complete a gamming. In as therefore and. Effeminacy such any of admits never whaleboat the, tiller are for as and. Chairs patent in alderman old gouty, like casters on water the about wheeled were captains whaling if, indeed times high. All at tiller no and, whatever sort that of sofa no, a stern seat no has whaleboat the butt, ribbons and cords gay with decorated tiller milliners little pretty, with himself steers often and. Their seat cushion sometimes comfortable on sheets stern the in sits always he. Boat his in anywhere road is captain the when. Ship slave or man o' war pirate in. Fishery whale the has so detail of peculiarities little own there have professions all. Here forgotten be not must which gamming with a capital G. Is it named after someone called Gam or Gamming? Did the first person to Gam, was it Dr. Gam? Mr. Gam? Mrs. Gam? Who knows? Maybe it is named for a person. Let's find out. Gamming about item little another is there. Here we go. Other. The on mate's chief to the and, ship one of board on, time the four, remaining captains to the. Cruise boats by visits exchange they, hails exchanging after when, cruising ground are on generally, whale ships more or, two of meeting social are. Noun, gam. Oh, so it's a noun. Okay, it's not a verb. You can't gam, but you can have a gam. By the sound of it, you can take part in a gam if you happen to find yourself on a whale ship on a cruising ground after exchanging hails. You can take part in a gam. Amazing. Right. Well, I'm going to... Unfortunately, you've all been gamming too much. And now the north of England, where I live, has been put back into lockdown because of everybody gamming way too much. You couldn't help but gam. You were gamming with your neighbours. You were gamming with your relatives. Gamming here, gamming there, gamming everywhere. Just, you couldn't walk for gams. And now, I'm sorry to say, no more gams. No gams for anyone. It's a sad state of affairs. You are no longer allowed... You can gam. As I understand it, you can gam in the pub. You can have a gam. Sorry, it's a noun, isn't it? You can have a gam in the pub. Go to the public house and enjoy a gam with your friends and relatives, neighbours, doctor, midwife, ombudsman, whoever takes your fancy, whoever you meet there, you can engage in a gam with them. But what you are not allowed to do is invite anyone else to have a gam in your domicile. You're not allowed two disjoint bubbles in the same gam. That is right out. No, no, no. No gams with disjoint bubbles. It's good that the government's advice is clear on this. If you're watching this back at some later time, after coronavirus has been forgotten, after the problem has been solved and everyone is back to full health, then I can only apologise for the previous discussion of where you may or may not engage in a gam and with whom. It is no longer relevant. Gam at your leisure. Have all the gams you wish, wherever you wish. Enjoy it. It's your last chance anyhow. It define learnedly me, let view that with. Lexicon the interincorporated be should and. Definition and needs it, certainly. I think needs is doing some hard work in that sentence. I didn't think we needed a definition of gam. I was intrigued. Yankees born true 1015, some among use constant in been years many, for now has word expressive same this nevertheless. Excuse me. It hold not does arc Webster's Noah. Erudition that to attained never, Johnson Doctor. Word the fine never and. Dictionaries of columns the down and up. Running index finger your out where might you. Gam is what but. Well, we know now. It's yeah. On stand to basis solid. No has pirate the assertion that in. Whaleman at above. This is the problem with when you actually learn something through this process. I'm supposed to be dumbing you down. We're supposed to be unreading this and by doing so evacuating it from our memories. And yet I have very little memory of the actual content of this book because it's such nonsense. It's such total hogwash dog shit from start to finish. Then I'm actually learning more about it and reading it backwards than I remember from the first time reading it forwards. It's a bit of a shame, really. I'm going to end up... I'll never forget this. I'll never forget this experience. I'm going to be quite sad when I'm done. I was thinking this the other day. When I finally reach the beginning of this book and I can stop unreading it forever, having purged it from my mind, I'm going to be quite sad that it's over. Maybe I'll do another book. There's no book that's quite as bad as this for unreading. I feel I've gone too hard too fast with Moby Dick. And it's a hell of an achievement to unread an entire novel like Moby Dick. But at the same time, it would seem to be a superficial act to unread another book that's not quite as bad as Moby Dick, just for the sake of it, just for the spectacle. Because I'm not doing this for the spectacle. I'm doing this as a social experiment to see if I can improve your lives. I think it's a work of, it's an important work, a work of, not, I wouldn't say art. It's not a work of art. It's more a work of therapy, of psychiatry, and it's important to do this for everyone's sanity in these difficult times. 2020 has been awful, let's face it, so far. And if the only good thing that comes of 2020 is a permanent record for what is rapidly beginning to look like 70 hours of my life spent unreading the great American novel of 1851, Herman Melville's Moby Dick. If that's the only good thing that comes of this year, then I think really we can, we'll look back on this fondly and forget the bad times, forget the coronavirus, forget the crazy Nazis infiltrating previously great democracies. We'll forget, what was it I read today? Ticks can bite your legs and give you Babesian. I can't even remember the name of the illness. It sounds horrible though. It looks like Babe Station, but it's I don't think it is Babe Station. You don't get access to Babe Station by being bitten by a tick. Unfortunately, it would be nice to have a free account there, but it's alas, it was babesiotomy. No, Babesi. I don't know, Babesi syndrome. I mean, that makes it sound like a 19th century, somewhat racist way of referring to an otherwise common illness. But it's, you get bitten by a tick from walking through long grass, and all of a sudden 2020 has got you. We don't need murder hornets. We've got ticks. You can't even see them. On stand to basis solid. Now, I read this bit. Did I read this bit? Where did I get up to? Maybe I didn't read this bit. Let's go from this bit. On stand to basis solid, no has pirate the assertion that in whaleman at above lifted high, be to himself boasting in that, conclude I hence. Altitude superior his for foundation proper no has he, fashion old that in elevated is man awen besides and, gallows the at only but, indeed, elevation uncommon in end sometimes it about glory peculiar, and he has theirs of profession that whether no to like should I say pirates of case the in because answer too hard be would it question is this whale ships towards feeling scornful as such cherish sailors slave ship and man of wars and pirates all also and merchant seaman doesn't count. All that is it why? Exclamations pretty like such and blubber boilers and spouters about stuff gamesome repeat and it at grin only they it of here should they chance by if and even name the of heard never they that ships other all to unknown utterly so thinga gam has she. Whether decent of sort any in whaler another meets she when do whaler the does what? Whaler free and easy, sociable, hospitable, unostentatious, honest, godly the at look but. Likenesses villainous, others each of overmuch see to like don't and. Sides both on villains infernal are they for, apart steer straightway pirates, answered once question that and. Barrels many how? Hail whalers that way same the. Skulls many how? Is hail first the. Crossbones others each cross to chance they when pirates for as and. Possible as soon as other each from away run they. Hurry prodigious as such in are they why meeting slave ships touching as. All at it about love brotherly and goodwill hearty right down sorry, the hyphenation threw me then. I was going to go for downright, but that's a word, and then I thought that's hyphenated. It should be right down, which isn't a word, but I have to read it. What anyway, goodwill hearty right down much be to seem not does there that ensigns of ducking as such scrapings and bowing silly of string as such through go first they. See it meet to chance they wen, men of war for as. Rig others each upon criticism finical, perhaps indulging time that all and, Broadway and dandies of brace alike, sees high the on other each cutting mutually, recognition of words single, as much so without on pass oftentimes will. Mid-Atlantic the in wake others each crossing ships merchant some, whereas so are they and sociable be to reason most have whalers there. See the sailing separately, ships all of that we see we then so. Crikey. Himself foibles few has he that knows he because probably heart too much take not does Nantucket the which whale hunters English the in foible little harmless is this but years 10 in collectively English the all than whales more kill collectively day 1 in Yankees the that seeing say too hard be would it consist really does whaleman English the in superiority this where but sea peasant of sort as provincialisms nondescript his with Nantucket lean long the regarding whalers American the over superiority metropolitan of kind at effect sometimes whalers English the besides himself but anybody in thing of sort that fancy not does he Yankee your and reserved rather as Englishman your for. Then between shyness of sort be too apt too is there occur do they when and occur often very not do meeting such whalers English of number small the from sure be too though English and Americans with case the is as language one speak parties both as long so is that difference essential very any make country of difference would gnaw. Perils and privations shared mutually and pursuit common are from arising congenialities peculiar the all with likewise but sailors of sympathies the all with meet they would only not for chat agreeable and have and news whaling the exchange would they besides meets now she ship the of people the for be may letters those of some and vessel remote far now and third some from letters of transfer are received have made them of one for home from absent long equally are they enough even itself cruising ground the on track others each crossing vessels whaling concerning true hold will this all degree in and her to importance utmost the of thing destined be may she which to cruising ground the from intelligence whaling latest the receive would ship outward bound the courtesy that for return in and files thumb worn and blurred her on one last the than later two or year a date of papers some have her let to sure be will she rate any at board on letters has perhaps outward bounder the ship absent long before. Whew. This chapter's quite long as well, isn't it? It's not as long as the last one, but it's pretty long. I mean, it's not as long as the last one yet, but it could be enormous. Again, I don't think it is. I think we've had the last of the great long chapters now. I don't think any more of them can be. As like the previous chapter, chapter 54, took over a whole episode of this. It took over an hour to read backwards. Which is too much for one chapter. It's ridiculous. You need to keep it going. Keep the pace going, Herman. Come on. Come on. About talk to things domestic dear of sorts all have. Consequently and. Other each to known personally are men the of few are not and. Officers, captains whose and. Seaport one in owned vessels of case the in. Course of matter a be to seem this would especially and. Contact sociable and friendly more. Closer still intercome but. Hails interchange only not should ships these circumstances such under that say I natural more much how mills kings away far the oar island fanning lone off earth the of ends the at other each descrying vessels whaling too see the of plain Salisbury and Baron's Pine illimitable the upon that natural more much how then concert in resting and while afore down sitting, perhaps, and news the interchange to moment afore stopping, and salutation mutual at avoid well cannot. Them of life the four, twain these, wilds inhospitables, such in other each encountering casually, if. England in plain Salisbury desolate, equally the o'er, state York new, in barons pine the crossing strangers to, if. Hey, there's the end of the chapter. The gam. Cruising ground common on especially and... Sorry, I banged the desk then. I did a big wobble. Sorry. Cruising ground common on especially and seas foreign in other each meeting when whaling vessels of usages peculiar the of here said something not were estimated inadequately remain might this all but sought absorbingly so he information that of some contribute could he accept captain stranger any with minutes 5 for even consort to not cared he outturned eventually it as for put he question the to answer negative at obtained had he hailing of process the by that been had it so if occasions similar on conduct subsequent his by judging her boarded have excuse me wrong tense there, getting ahead of myself, perhaps all after not would he case the been not this had even but storms betoken sea and wind the this was spoken had we whaler the of board on go not did Ahab why reasons ostensible the Gamther 53 chapter. Awesome. Another chapter done. You see, I knew these chapters would fall like dominoes from this point on. Excellent. Yes. You may notice I'm not wearing my hat today. I usually wear a hat. I have previously worn a hat in I think all but the very first episode of this. I did the first episode and then decided that I was not sexually attracted to the shape of my own head when viewed almost full screen on the internet, and so decided to wear a hat to disguise the nature of my own head and its shape. However, the temperature in this room is, and I don't have a thermometer, but I'm going to estimate that it's approximately 48 degrees centigrade right now. 48 degrees, exactly, pretty much exactly halfway between the freezing point of water and the boiling point of water. And that tension in my water is leading me to feel quite uncomfortable in a woolly hat. I do have the woolly hat just here. I could get it for you. I have one of two woolly hats that I frequently wear on this stream. There it is, right? Now I've put that on. I'm going to leave it on for a few minutes and see just how ridiculously hot I feel. No, I'm not. I'm going to make myself feel ill by wearing a woolly hat. I'm not going to do that. The woolly hat will return once the temperatures return to something, something approximating human in habitability. Until then, you will have to do with the unattractive shape of my head, my full head. I also trimmed my beard, didn't I, last week? I'm streamlining everything for you. No hat, beard is gone. My head must be taking up about half the space in this stream that it usually does. So maybe I need to sit close to the camera. Maybe that'll just freak everyone out, though. Maybe not. I can wear this hat. I've got another hat actually. Just think about it. This is one of those Stone Roses lemon hats, which is it's a bit too big for me. I bought that specifically for someone's 40th birthday party, and they were having a 90s music themed party. Not only was it a 90s music themed party, the party itself was in Todmorden, which is the new Hebden Bridge, if you know what that means. If you don't know what that means, suffice to say, it had the potential to be a good party. It was in a room in a pub, above the pub. The pub itself, I believe, being also a Thai restaurant, as I think all pubs are now legally required to be. and it was fine. It was great. You know, the 90s theme music thing, which I was so looking forward to, being, you know, I was a teenager in the 90s and really enjoyed music from the 90s and still do. I think that's a great time for independent music culture of the 90s that's oft overlooked, but basically because of the overriding memory people have of who weren't sort of, you know, more interested in the scene itself, is of the kind of the late Britpop period of you know, bands like I guess Menswear come to mind as being one of the most egregious examples of I wouldn't say talentless. I'm loath to say talentless, because they had a great talent. They knew exactly what they were doing, but unfortunately what they were doing was bereft of any cultural value, and was merely a kind of you know, the final, what they thought was the final wag of the dog's tail of indie music in the 90s, but actually was more like a curly turd creeping out down the Alsatian's back legs. But the earlier period, the more interesting period, and the more interesting unusual independent music of say 93 to 92 to 94, it's sort of post that whole Manchester thing, but before Britpop became pop rather than independent interesting music. I mean, there were loads of bands who didn't get caught up in that, but you get what I'm saying. I like that sort of thing. I was hoping this was going to be exactly right up my alley, but to get into the theme of it, I did go for the lemon Stone Roses hat as a nod to my Manchester past and so on. And I got there, and for the first hour and a half of the party, the DJ, I don't know who the DJ was, or even if it was a live DJ, it may just have been a playlist. I think it was probably a playlist on for some of this. But that playlist didn't include a single track from the 90s. There wasn't one 90s track. It crept forward in time from Rolling Stones, Kinks kind of stuff, gradually creeping its way through Talking Heads, which I like. I mean, I'm not saying any of these bands are bad or anything, but it wasn't as billed, right? Some Talking Heads stuff in there. The Jam, I think, were played. Good music, but not 90s music. And then eventually, you know, by the time we had to leave, it just about started playing some good 90s tracks. You know, some like pre-Park Life Blur, which is nice to hear. Stone Roses type stuff, but all fairly obvious. The kind of things you'd play. You know, you. No, I don't mean you, the global you. I mean you specifically. The kind of things you specifically would play if you were asked to play 90s music. Which was fine. But anyway, so I've literally never put this hat on since, apart from ironically. So maybe I'm going to put this hat on for a little while. It's not actually that hot. It's not like the woolly hat. So we'll go for this hat as a, you know, at least it's a hat. At least it covers my strangely deformed, sexually unappealing bald head. Whelmed. How whelmed can we get? Whelmed us leave midway or mazes, but actually I can't wear that. That makes my own voice sound bizarrely loud in my own face because of the echoes from the brim of the hat. I feel that really is strange. It's twice as loud when I do that. My own voice it sounds twice as loud to me in my own head. I doubt it sounds twice as loud to you. Probably sounds less loud to you because a lot of the sound is being baffled by that. Shall we continue? Whelmed us leave midway or mazes barren, in on us lead either they, globe round this over such chasing while. Hearts human all before swims, other or time some, that phantom demon, that of chase tormented in awe, of dream we mysteries far, those of pursuit in but. Voyage the in promise were there then. Solomon king of islands or Cyclades. Any than strange and sweet, more sights discover and distances new reach ever, for could we eastward sailing by and plain endless and world this were. Us before time the all were, secure behind left we that those where started we whence point very the to perils numberless through only. Or? Can I read? Only. Conduct. Does all that conduct circumnavigation that all does where to. I don't know why I'm worried about that, like it makes any sense anyway. Does where to but feelings proud inspire to sound that in much is there. World the round, off her keep, helm up. Voice lion, old his in outcried he. Headway her diminish to wind the in ship the holding been. A lot of ambiguities in this chapter so far. Ship the holding been had far thus who steersman the to turning but evinced before ever had man old insane the than sadness helpless deep of more conveyed tone the but words the in little but seemed there. Water the into overgazing, Ahab murmured, "Ye do, and me from away swim." I tried to murmur it a little bit, but I'm worried it wouldn't get picked up on the microphone if I murmured too quietly. So I'm not an actor. I'm not paid to act. I'm paid to read this backwards. I'm not paid anyway. You get what I'm saying. If I were to be paid, it wouldn't be to act. Meanings carry capriciously trifles. Oh, I love trifle. I don't love trifle. Meanings carry capriciously trifles, various the man monomaniac any two, yet sight similar and noticed have before often must Ahab voyagings continual, his of course the in though flanks strangers, the with aft and fore themselves ranged and fins shudderings seemed what with away darted, side hour by swimming placidly been had before days, some for that. Fish harmless small of shoals. Ways singular there with accordance in, then instantly and crossed fairly were wakes to the moment that at. To them address, to them tell, home at not am I if, years 3 time this and, ocean Pacific that to letters future all address to them tell, world the round bound, Pequod that is this. There ahoy, hailed loudly he. Homebound shortly and Nantucket ours vessel stranger that aspect her by knowing and trumpet his seized again he position windward his of advantage taking but forbade wind threatening the knot had stranger the board to boat lowered have would he though as seemed almost it paused moment after Ahab. Ship another to name Wales White, the of mention mere first, the at incident ominous, this of observance there evincing, were Pequod, the of seaman doesn't count. Although I feel like we're going to get a sperm soon. We're starting to actually mention whales for a change. It's a rare occurrence in this book about whales. And very often when he talks about whales, he talks about white whales, and then someone says, no, it's not a white whale, it's a sperm whale. And that's where the sperms come in. So we're hopefully going to see one soon, but it doesn't count. The ways silent various in while. Between distance, the increasing still was ship his meantime. It without heard himself make to strove vain he in. A main rising now wind the and. See the interhand his from fell somehow it. Mouth his to trumpet his putting of act the in was, bullocks pallid the overleaning, captain strange the as but. Well white the scene ye have, ahoy ship! Below from heard being was hail quarter deck the while, lookouts own hour to word one not said, past they as us eyeing mildly, fishermen forlorn looking those. Yet, other the of those to ship one of mastheads that from leapt have almost might we that other each to nigh, so came ere the in men 6 we. Stern our under close glided, slowly ship the wen, though and sea fathomless at over swung and swayed they, mast the 2 nailed hoops iron in standing. Cruising of years 4 nearly survived had that raiment the bepatched, nice, bepatched and torn, maybe it's bepatched, the bepatched and torn so. Beasts of skins the inclad seemed they, mastheads 3 those at lookouts long bearded, her sea to was its sight wild set were sails lower her only, hoar frost with over furred trees of branches thick the like were rigging her and spars her all while, rust reddened of channels long with traced was appearance spectral this, sides her down all, walrus stranded of skeleton the like bleached was craft this, full as bean had waves the if as. Oh, that's the end of the chapter. Home from absent long and sea at whaler fisheries ocean far the in Tyro at a remarkable so sight that a view good had I. Foremast head the at perch lofty my from, nigh drew slowly she as. Name by albatross, go neither. Ahead loomed sail whaleman right, for ground cruising good Crozets distant the off, cape the from southeastward. Albatross the 52 chapter. Well, for a chapter about albatrosses, that certainly didn't mention albatrosses very much, did it? Still, on we go. Of course, bringing to mind the rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, isn't it? Now that is a great story of nautical events there with the curse and the albatross around his neck and slipping like lead into the sea, and dicing for the lives of the crew and being becalmed with no water, and then down in falls comes the rain. Probably the greatest Iron Maiden song out of their entire back catalogue. I'm joking, of course. It's a great poem. It's not. I mean, it was a great song on Power Slave, the first LP that I ever bought with my own money. I was proud of that. Not some shit. Not some total dog shit that most people say, oh yeah, I bought, The Simpsons Sing the Blues with my own money. That was the first thing I ever bought. No, it wasn't. It was Power Slave by Iron Maiden from the record shop in the town I grew up in, which is a terrible town for music and culture and that sort of thing. Also the fantastic name of Cockermouth. If you've ever been to Cockermouth, yes, that's where I grew up until my was I a teenager? No, pre-teen years. But I was big into Iron Maiden at the time, as were my friends. I saved some pocket money for a few weeks and could afford to go down to the record store. Just opened in the new precinct there, between Station Street and Main Street, and in Cockermouth. Used to be a record store near the Sainsbury's, near the new Sainsbury's, which wasn't there at the time. It was the big car park behind Fairfield Juniors. It's now where the Sainsbury's is. Where they used to have the fair. Remember they used to have the fair there? You used to go and do hook a duck and win a pack of mildly pornographic playing cards. You had to get two ducks. You'd have to hook 2 ducks together. If you just hooked 1 duck, it was I don't know, some plastic tat. It would just break within 5 minutes. But the playing cards were that was the good shit that you would go for back in the 80s. What was I saying? Oh yeah, Power Slave. She has some great tracks on there, as far as I remember. Ace is High is on there. 2 Minutes to Midnight, what a banger. The Duelist is that on there, I think. But the gem, the crown jewel of that album was the enormously long. It was like 10 minutes long version of this somewhere between a rock song and a recital of the Rime of the Ancient Mariner, the poem by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. which is a great poem as well. Well worth reading. I'm not going to read that backwards. I'm happy to have read that. As should you. You know, after you finish watching this, we've got a quarter of an hour left of this. After you finished watching this nonsense, maybe you could go and read some great epic poetry of the Romantic era, or listen to Iron Maiden. You know, whichever one takes your fancy. Oh, speaking of Iron Maiden, I was going to show you something. This had me laughing. Last night I was laughing so hard at this that I mean, it's not funny, but this had me laughing so hard my wife had to come and check on me from downstairs because this was funny. If you've ever tried writing a book, one of the hardest things I find about writing short stories or whatever, which I used to do a bit back in 10 years ago or something. I've not done it for a long while, but I used to write a few bits and bobs. And choosing a name for a character in a book is terribly difficult. You never feel quite comfortable with the name you've chosen, I don't think, until it's bedded in. It's very difficult to know where to start. And then do you change it later if you decide, you know, if the characters take a different tack to what you initially thought? Does the name become inappropriate? You could change the name and so on. Anyway, so I use a piece of software for writing when I do write called Scrivener, which is a sort of word processor, but with feature. It's geared towards writing manuscripts, writing novels or scripts or whatever, and being able to rearrange scenes and keep notes and that sort of thing all in one document. It's a nice piece of software. I recommend it. But one thing it does have is a random name generator that you can go in. You can click on it. You can go in there. You can choose various options. You can choose the nationality of the first name and second name, you know, the origin of the name. You can choose the whether it should be a boy's name or a girl's name or both. Like, you don't care whether it's whichever that may be, and how many to generate, and it will give you maybe 10 ideas for names, and you can look down the list and decide. I'm not that impressed with this one. I'm, you know, maybe I'll put that in my short list. Maybe I'll just settle on the first one I come to, which is like Boone Monk, right? Boone Monk for an English name. And I went down a rabbit hole of just clicking this over and over again. I couldn't believe I'd never actually used this in anger. I'd like seen it in the software and gone, oh, okay, that's there. But last night I went down the rabbit hole of clicking this repeatedly. And I couldn't believe how consistently ridiculous the names that it was coming up with were. Like, if you were writing a sitcom and you thought, I have to come up with a funny name, a name that is like feasible but ridiculous for this character. It's not obviously a joke, but it's you know, stupid enough. It's like Dickensianly stupid and appropriate to this character. And I ended up generating loads of them, and I was tweeting them out last night on Twitter. If you follow me on Twitter, you've seen some of this before anyway. But I'm just going to show you one tweet that contained a set of names that I generated, and these weren't. I mean, they were cherry picked, but it only took me a few clicks of the generator to find these. So here we go. These are the names: Piers Worm, Presley Brint. Now Presley Brint, obviously. PF, Professorly with a triple S in there, Professorly Brint. Now I should clarify, these were all chosen with English origin first names and surnames. So these are all supposedly names that you would give to an Englishman, maybe home counties, lives in a little village. You know, these are your friends. If you're an Englishman, these are the guys you drink with in the pub. Okay, these are male names for Englishmen. Here we go: Piers Worm, Festley Brint, Kip Pickles, Enos Cum Riding, Weberly Fitchett, more Burr. Not there's not enough Burr. We need more Burr. Loyal Gully, Witterwits, I can't even pronounce that. Bjorthram Tip, Bron Biggie, straight out of a questionable video, Crofton Riddles, Golden Ore, which I think it just makes me want a bowl of cereal. Sis Pass, Blai Emberson, Wearing Wickham, Sissy Feather, and of course, Sissy Feather being obviously a dead butch name for an Englishman. And what spurred me to come back to this, the segue there being Ron Maiden, which I thought was a fantastic name. If he'd chosen to use his middle name and his first name was Ian. Anyway, I heartily recommend if you have Scrivener, I heartily recommend you choose the nation of your birth, the nation with whose names you are most acquainted, and select at random 10 or 20 names that Scrivener believes are valid, reasonable names for your friends in the real world. It does make me worry though, because I can imagine choosing, say, Nigeria, right? Maybe I'm writing a story and there's a character, maybe it's set in Nigeria. I want to write a whole story set in Nigeria, or maybe just that there's a Nigerian character, a family of Nigerian descent and who are traditional Nigerian names. Now, if I choose Nigerian first and surnames in that drop-down box and click give me 10 Nigerian names, these are the names of all the people in this community. I mean, they could just be abysmal names. They could be as ridiculous to a Nigerian as, as Weberly Fitchett is to me, as Loyal Gully is to me. I'd hate to think that your entire book becomes a laughingstock in the Nigerian fiction market, which is obviously your target audience, simply because Scrivener convinced you that those were real Nigerian names, that you should lean on that. You should definitely use these names. I think take with a pinch of salt and do a bit of additional research. Make sure don't just trust that. Maybe use it as placeholders, but remember, for God's sake, remember to go and check that all the names that you've generated don't mean something utterly preposterous like Boone Monk, which was one of the other ones that I generated. One of my favourites there, Boone Monk. I think Boone Monk and Loyal Gully are excellent names. I was just looking ahead here to see how long this chapter is. It seems to be pretty long. I don't think we're going to... Oh, have I skipped one? I've skipped a whole chapter there. Oh, it's not very long. These chapters are quite short, look. Oh, look at this. There's loads of short chapters. That's the Albatross, and then this is a tiny chapter. We've got 8 minutes left of this hogwash. I think... Should we try and nail this chapter in 8 minutes, or am I done? Do I get a short evening this time? Let's go for it. I think we can do it. Purpose thy eyest steadfastly thou still. Gale this in sleeping, shudder with Starbuck thought, man, old terrible. Ship thee of, this is a footnote, but it's a footnote from here, so we can read it in the same order, that's fine. Ship thee of course, thee of himself inform can, below while captain the. Helm thee at compass the to going without, because telltale the called is cabin compass the. Sealing thee in beam from swung that telltale, the of needle the toward pointed were eyes closed, the that so back thrown was head the, erect was body the though. Hand clenched tightly his from swung lantern his, of spoken been previously have which currents and tides of charts those of one unrolled lay him beside table the on. Coat and hat unremoved, the from dripping slowly still, emerged before time's sum had he which from storm the of sleet half melted and rained the. Chair floor screwed his in straight sitting eyes, closed with him saw he, stood barometer the how marked a cabin the into down going night one when. Aspect man's old, the forget Starbuck could never. Hammock his in repose that seek not would he repose demanding deem nature wearied when even. Blast that he up stood Ahab wordless still. Bowlines the in swung men the silence in still. Prevailed ocean the of shrieks the before humanity of muteness same the night by. See, I can do it quite quicker than I want to. Waves demoniac, the of gladness and madness, swift the all through on tour day after day, waxing sailors painted by man if as, ship silently and, spoken were words no or few. Belt loosened, in as swung he which in, rail the to secured bowline of sort, into himself slipped had man each. Waves leaping the against guard to better the and, waste the in bullocks the along line in stood, but bows its over broke burstingly, that seas perilous the by ship the of part forward, the from driven crew the meantime. Together eyelashes very his congeal, but all would snow or sleet of squall occasional and while. Windward to dead, gazing stand would hours and hours for Ahab, shroud a grasping firmly hand one with hand, whole accustomed it's to inserted leg ivory his with, so. Fatalists practical become crew the captain then, crew and captain then. Gale the of issue the await to passively but done be can more nothing, secured bean has aloft and above everything after, these like times tempestuous in, rushing, only 4 minutes left, crikey. Mates his addressed ever than seldom more and, reserve gloomiest the manifested, deck dangerous and drenched the of command continual almost the time the for assuming though, Ahab elements the of blackness this all during. Descried be times at wood jet solitary the, before from on us beckoning still, sky the two feathers of fountain its directing still, unvarying and snow white, calm but. Horizon any without air black that beat o'er, store in haven any without everlastingly, on swim to condemn seem, fish these and fowls those into transformed beings guilty were, where, even, sea tormented this into launched ourselves found we, us attended had before that silence is perfidious the by allured long for, you're of called as, tormentoso cape rather, ye call they do, hope good of cape. Bread had its suffering and sin long before remorse and anguish in were soul mundane great the and, conscience were tides vast its if as, sea black the heaved unrestingly still, heaved and, selves homeless there for roosting place fit therefore and, desolation to appointed thing craft uninhabited, drifting some ship our deemed they though as, hemp the to clung obstinately time long afore, hootings hour of spite and, seen were birds these of rose even, stays our on perched, morning every and, I've got a fly thing on my head. Ugh. That's the problem with having the windows open and the lights on. You get mouthed to death. Morning every and, sea ravens inscrutable the flew rear hour in thick while, us before thither and hither darted water the informed strange, bows hour to close. How far have we got to go? Way too far. I'm giving up. 2 minutes to go. We will have to leave it there. Sorry I didn't manage to get all the way through that chapter in time to conclude the episode. And no happy finish. We always enjoy getting a sperm at the very last second, but alas, alack, no sperms at all this episode. 0 sperms. No sperms. Disappointing. He's obviously storing all these sperms up. I'm being edged. One day we will have so many sperms we won't know what to do with them. I guess draw them on the big board and then wipe them off. Wipe away the evidence. Right. Well, all that remains is to say thank you for watching, enjoying this show thing, whatever you want to call it. Join me next time when we will find out just bows hour to close what is what. It's hard to just make it up as you go. It's easy with reference. Like and subscribe, click things, click all the buttons all over. I guess this is YouTube by now, right? You're going to watch this later. Click all those things, subscribe, never miss an episode. I mean, feel free to miss an episode. It's It's functionally identical every time, so it doesn't actually matter if you miss an episode. You can come back in a couple of weeks, and we'll still be here. We'll still be here. But next Friday I'll be back for episode 35, when we will finish this entire book. We'll do the entire thing, no problem. Just get it knocked off, and we'll all be able to rest easy after that. Give money to the National Video Game Museum. The link is down there, except it's not a link. You have to type it in. Lazy sod, get on with it. All that good stuff. For now, I think we are done. Is that it? Is that the end? I don't think I've got anything else to tell you. That's it. Brilliant. Enjoy the GAM. Until next Friday. Goodbye.